Hello, everyone. Frater Crow here from Celestial Oddities Paraseekers, Celestial Oddities Paranormal Guys podcast, in the coterie of Samil Arcana Cult Order, doing a little video that was kind of unplanned. Some of you might be expecting a episode tonight of Pong. Unfortunately, our guest had to cancel due to some emergency things that happened on her end, and decided I was going to go ahead and do something that I've been needing to do the last week. I've been wanting to put up a video and explain a situation that happened 4 years ago. Several of you have been wanting to hear that, and this has given me the opportunity to do so. So if you are tuning in, feel free to leave a comment, ask questions, engage. This was an impromptu, unplanned video tonight, replacing the episode of the radio that unfortunately had to be canceled. It won't be very long, but it'll be a recap on an event that, like I said, many of you have been wanting to hear about. I titled this episode Lions, Tigers, and Demons, Oh My. And it is about the possession that took place in 2020 in the month of May at the Bellaire Demon House in Bellaire, Ohio, what we experienced, and some of the events that unraveled thereafter. So we'll go ahead and give it a couple minutes for some people to tune in, hopefully, and then we'll go ahead and get started. If you are here, leave a comment on whatever platform you're checking us out from, and I'll be able to see that on my end. But we do appreciate you checking out the show. Click the like, share, follow, and subscribe button, whether it's on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, whatever you're checking out, or wherever you're checking us out from. Please feel free to, leave a comment and share that around. Hey, Jesse, how you doing, brother? Thank you for tuning in, man. So as I said, this video is going to be something I might do from time to time. Some of you might know that our episodes are coming to an end. I've already ended Nights of the Nephilim. Celestial Oddities Pong is got 2 more episodes the next 2 Thursdays in a row, and then it'll be coming to a close as well. We might return back in a couple years, but we are taking a indefinite break for the time being. So from time to time, I might be doing something called Last Caw, because I am Frater Crow. Caw is in a crow, and going over different things, talking about different experiences I've had in the paranormal field, different happenings that have taken place, different teachings and things that I can give you guys on a metaphysical standpoint. And then I might also do the Tenebria Caniculum, which would be its own thing on infernal magic, necromancy, conjuration, and black magic. So something I might be putting together, I'm not sure. My plans were to leave the internet completely after the shows of Pong ended, but I've had some spiritual visitations recently through my workings that have caused me to do multiple readings back to back, and I keep getting the same answers over and over again, that I am not to leave and I am to continue to put out entertainment. It's not really what I wish to be doing, but I do listen to the spirits that I work with. I know it's ultimately my choice, but with that being said, they do usually steer me, properly, so I don't want to go against what they're telling me if there's a reason that I should be. So with that being said, we're going to talk about the incident of the possession that has taken place in Bellaire, Ohio in May of 2020. Now, this has been featured on different documentaries, different radio shows. I've talked about it before on my radio show and have done lives on it in the past briefly, but I lost my Facebook a couple years ago. It was taken away from me. Facebook just got rid of me for no reason at all, just boom, gone. And I lost those videos and a lot of the things I had posted. So I felt it was a good time after about a year or so of being back on Facebook, back on platforms and social media, to give you guys a breakdown of exactly what took place during that outing. So in early of 2020, I decided to form a paranormal research group. I had been doing paranormal research and investigation most of my life by myself, going out to cemeteries and graveyards, going out to historic landmarks and different sections of woods that are known to have peculiar activity, I had done investigations other places by myself, but never had done it in a team setting. So I got together with some other individuals and we started talking about the idea of putting together a team. During that process, I was scouting out some people from other teams that I thought could make a good team, together. And I had approached a long-standing Pittsburgh team and decided, hey, why don't we try to get together for an outing, go do an investigation together as two separate teams, and see how we mingle and see if maybe we want to cross-pollinate and become one team, or if some members want to join up and so forth, and go from there. Our first investigation together was the infamous Bellaire Demon House. Now, they no longer call themselves the Bellaire Demon House, I believe because they don't want bad publicity. They just decided to call it the Bellaire House. They called it the Bellaire Demon House because a lot of strange and darker and violent type of things have happened over time. No, violent not meaning necessarily someone getting hurt, but more powerful spirits that are not necessarily fun to interact with. So our teams came together at this location. There was, I think, 8 or 9 of us total. And night one went well. Night one, we were experiencing this place, interacting with the spirits, getting different responses on our equipment, different things happening, and had a good night. Night number 2, some weird incidences happened. At one point, we had a security system that we had hooked up around the house with multiple cameras. I believe 6 cameras were on this screen with a flat screen downstairs on top of the grand piano, watching 6 different angles of the house throughout the weekend. Took 44 hours of footage from just that one specific weekend. And the second day, all of a sudden, the TV just shuts off by itself. And it had been on for, 20 some hours at this point, never shut off. All of a sudden, boom, it shut off. We started having really weird incidences happening around us. Shortly afterwards, one of the members of the opposite team, who had been very quiet and kind the whole weekend, starts slamming his equipment in his toolbox, his equipment toolbox. You could see he was agitated, he was angry, and I thought that was kind of out of place because I'm like, I don't know, first off, why is he mad? Second off, he's been very chill the entire weekend. And I said to him, what's going on here, man? He's like, this place fucking sucks. Ain't nothing happening here. I thought we would get more activity, and it's a waste of my time. And you could see this wasn't him. This wasn't how he was acting. It wasn't his normal way of talking. And he just seemed incredibly agitated. Well, we were getting ready to do what's called an Estes method. Estes method is when you put on headphones, one member of the group, they blindfold you. You can't hear or see. My part of that is I always try to channel during that. So some people just listen, but I try to actually go to a place within my mind and reach a mediumship state where I can actually connect with the spirits there ethereally. And I was the one that did the Estes method. The rest of the group asks questions out loud. There's what's called a spirit box connected to the headphones that runs through radio stations at a very rapid rate. So, and over top of that, you have white noise. It is believed that through this device, spirits can use different clips and pieces of the sound bites that are rapidly firing through with the white noise and can tone themselves into it and speak to you through those boxes. The reason for the Estes method is that if a group's sitting there holding it and all hearing it at the same time, there's a chance that everybody's hearing different things, calling out different things. It can come convoluted and not really getting accurate responses. But if you have one person specifically blindfolded and headphoned, listening, calling out everything they're hearing, but never knowing what the group's asking, you see how they correlate, and it gives you much more accurate responses and information. So I was doing this, calling out what I was hearing, but during it, I was going to a very peaceful state of mind, and I was letting my mind on autopilot call out what it heard, but I wasn't focusing hard on what was being said. I was just letting it go naturally and disappearing. Now, during this session, I had a vision. It was a very powerful vision. It was one of the most incredible visions I've ever had, not only in the paranormal, but in occult and anything, in my rituals. I all of a sudden disappeared and I was in the attic of the Bellaire house. Now, what's interesting is I wasn't in the attic as if I was a man watching the attic. I was the attic. I could see all angles of the attic as if I was a fly on the wall. And it was just like I could see the entire room. I could feel the atmosphere of the room. And at first, I didn't notice him. But after a moment or so of the radio channels going through and I'm saying words, all of a sudden, I seen out of the corner of, it's weird to say, my peripheral, even though I'm the room, I seen a man standing there. And all of a sudden, as I noticed him, he noticed me, and we locked together. And I can't explain this scenario really with accurate words. There was a very dark black masked figure, like a shadow being, but not exactly. And he was wearing a hat. Now, this is interesting, folks, because Daniel and I on our show, The Pong, have talked about shadow beings and the Hat Man, which has been witnessed by tons of people all over the world. And we've had multiple people come on our show. We've done episodes on it. This wouldn't be what I called the hat being of the shadow people. This was something different. And as I noticed him and he noticed me, we locked onto each other through the spirit box. And I've never heard this before or after. I heard several full lines back to back. Now, normally through the spirit box, you might have, get out of here. If you get that many words, it's amazing. You usually hear Jake, John, yes, no, me. You get a lot of 1-2 word responses. To hear something like get out of here is more profound. Well, this was much more profound. It was several sentences back to back to back in some type of other language. Now, I say it was a Germanic language. It wasn't German. I don't know exactly what language it was. I am German. I could understand the dialect that it was some sort of Germanic language, but it wasn't common, what we would know as German spoke today. Now, what's interesting about this is that when it locked onto me, it said back to back these lines. All of a sudden, I got grabbed, snapped me out of my meditative state, out of my mediumistic state, my in-vision, and I yanked my headphones off, surprised the hell out of me. I do not like to be snapped out of this. When I'm in that type of mind state, let me get my way back out. Well, I got grabbed. Now, one might say, oh, the spirit grabbed you? No. One of the members of the team that was there physically grabbed me in the real world, in reality. And when I snapped out of it and pulled my headphones off, I looked, and the entire team, except for 2 people, myself and the gentleman who was flipping out a little bit ago, were standing in front of me, terrified looking, pointing, behind me. And I'm looking at them, I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Why did you snap me out of this? And all they did was like breathing heavily and pointing behind me. Now, the gentleman behind me was flipping out earlier, but he did say he would decide to stay there during the Estes method, try to calm down, and then he would decide if he was leaving, because he kept saying he was going to drive the whole way home, which was in another state. It didn't make sense. It was like 11 o'clock at night. Why would you drive multiple hours when we have a place to stay all night for, part of the cost that you paid? So as I turn around, he's sitting on the couch in fetal position, holding his own knees up against his chest, rocking back and forth, going, just giving this high-pitched jackal of a laugh, which wasn't his laugh. I heard him laugh throughout the weekend. And as I turned, I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, we're hoping you could tell us. He started acting very peculiar halfway through your session and started saying all kinds of weird stuff. And I said his name, and I don't want to give his name on here. We'll call him Steve. I was like, Steve, what's going on? What's wrong? He wouldn't answer me. And I'm like, Steve, what is going on, man? What's wrong? And he looked up at me, and I could watch his face contorting, making these muscular movements within his face that human beings can't make their face muscles do that on their own. So at that point, I was like, oh, shit, because I've seen possession before. And I realized at this point, this man was now in the grips of possession. So I'd let the team know I believe that he's under the grips of possession. And one of the members of the other team that was with us said, I think we need to get him outside for fresh air. I agreed to that. I said, everybody get him outside. I was still trying to come back from what I just witnessed with this being speaking to me, the intensity of the scenario. And, yes, go ahead and take him outside. I'll be out in a second. So they all go outside on the porch. It's kind of a crisp night in May. May's warm, but it was kind of a chillier night, I remember. And we're all sitting out on or standing on the porch. He's sitting. They're trying to get him to kind of come back to himself. And she says everyone needs to hold hands and pray to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Well, not all of us believe in that faith, myself being one of them, but I let her do her thing. So she said, let's all hold hands and pray to our Savior, Lord and Jesus Christ. And then he got this most violent of look on his face, and his face started contortion again. He spit on the ground and says, it'll do you no fucking good, in this crazy deep voice. And at that point, I'm like, oh shit, this just got a lot more serious. Get him back into the house. Because this is no longer something simple. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Tara. Hi, Dee Dee. And hi, Jesse. So get him back in the house. I think we need to get in the house before the neighbors see what's going on out here and call the cops or something. So we take him back in. There is a seance table at the Bellaire house, and it's a very nice round table that was there at the time. I don't know if it's still there. It's right inside the front door of the house. So we went in and everybody sat around. And I says, I think we need to perform a banishing and exorcism of the spirit. Now, everyone hold hands. Do not let go of each other's hands, including holding his hand. We lit the candles. We got the mood right. And I started to perform an exorcism of sorts. Not a full-fledged, what I would call an extreme exorcism, but an exorcism nonetheless. Now, we have to take a step back, folks. What is a demon? That's the common misconception. People say there's a demon there. Something possessed him. It's a demon. Something was very mean or dark. It's a demon. Depends on what you call demon. I would say that a demon is a parasitic entity, whether that's someone that was once human that is now dead and he or she is of a darker nature, or it's an astral ethereal being of some sort, whether from this plane or another plane, that drinks from energy and is a parasite of sorts. Those would be demons to me because they are malicious. They have ill intent against you and they wish to cause you harm. So therefore they are more of a malicious demonic spirit. Now, you could also segue that and say demons are things like Ashmodai and Belial and Adramelech and these different beings that are historically known to be demons or gods of pagan nations that have been deified. I don't believe that that's what this was that night, and I don't believe that that's really hardly what it ever is in any of these cases. Because we let our imagination run wild and we think demons, we think, these things that we see in movies like The Exorcist and we see in other Hollywood, escalated films that they create. And that's often not what it is. So, you have to segue. What is your definition of a demon? Well, my definition, as I said, would be something that is draining your energy and latching and leeching from you. So that's exactly what I believe this is. I believe this was the spirit of a man that either lived there in that area or was passing through and made this location his dwelling place. But one thing we have to understand is you can have a crossbreed. A crossbreed would be the spirit of the human dead who, instead of the parasitic astral entity latching onto you, it latches onto the spirit of the disembodied dead, amplifying who that spirit is, what it's capable of, and becoming a little bit of a crossbreed of both human or once human and astral parasite. I believe that's what this is. Was the man maybe mean and malicious in his life? Possibly. Was it a chance that it was a regular everyday guy who has now been turned into a darker entity because of the thing attached to him? Absolutely. Could it be both? Absolutely. That is hard to distinguish and decipher. But what is crazy about this story is we went ahead and performed this exorcism. During it, you could hear all kinds of sounds around the house, banging, slamming, footsteps upstairs. The poltergeist type activity started to amplify in nature. And then the candles started to sizzle. Now, candles will sizzle sometimes just in general as they burn a certain way. No, this was like a white noise, like from the spirit box that I mentioned earlier. It was given a very, very loudly from the candles around the room as they rose in height, much more than a normal candle. A regular candlestick, you might get a candle flame about that big, if you can see that, folks, which is pretty big on a regular candle. Normally it's only like that. Well, these rose several inches and were giving static as he started to really swoon and move around. And we, finished the exorcism and banished this thing from him. And he dropped onto the table. It all sounds like a Hollywood movie, but this has been witnessed by multiple people. And as I said, been in documentaries. And you could see this thing leave him. You actually seen this black shadowed mass leave this man's body, go across the hallway, up into the stairwell, and stop. I was the only one not a part of the seance table circle. I was standing independently in the living room as the conductor of the rite. I seen this go down the hall from him, lost track of it because of the wall, seen it come back across this wall because I was viewing that way, and I watched it go up the stairs and stop, and the stairwell grew black. Now, it was already dark in this room, so if you imagine standing in a dark room, it's already dark. Well, I watched it grow darker than dark, like black oil dark, in the stairwell, and I could just feel this residual residue that still existed in me from the interaction I had in vision meditation during the Estes method. So when it grew darker, I actually felt it inside of me, and I fully banished it out at that point, and it disappeared and went up the attic stairs. Now, let's fast forward a bit. About a year and a half later, I'd been to the Bellaire house now like 8 times, but like a year and a half later, my team returned. Now, some of the members of that other team that had joined us had left that team and joined mine. Some of those members of the old team went off and did their own thing or no longer investigated. That team was no longer with us. 2 of their members were now with me, neither of which were the gentleman that was possessed. We returned back for another session, and we set up the security cameras around the house. They worked fine for hours and hours on end. But one of the cameras in one of the very noteworthy rooms kept glitching and flashing on and off. And I was watching it from the security flat screen TV downstairs on top of the grand piano again. And what was interesting is as I was watching the camera flash over and over again, I noticed something moving within the frame of the picture. And I'm like, what the hell is that? Now, we have this on footage, and I shared a picture the other day. And if any of you seen it, go back and look at it. If you haven't, go check it out after this. What I didn't put a picture up of was I seen a spiritual hand come up into the screen and grip and move out of the frame. I still have this on video. And then shortly afterwards, I had took a freeze frame with my phone of a face that emerged into the camera. What's wild about this picture, it is the picture of an old man wearing a fedora type hat. And a dead-on hit to the vision of what I'd seen a year and a half earlier during my in-vision meditation, what had spoke to me in a Germanic language, what had possessed this gentleman behind me and caused this giant black mass that eventually left him in the previous part of the story. So that was cemented evidence of holy shit, because I talked about for a year and a half, there's this hat man that I seen, this older gentleman, but it was very dark. I don't think it was just him. I think it was a mixture of a spirit and something else attached to him. And then here he was, caught on picture. And I shared that the other day. If you guys didn't know what you were looking at, go back and look. You'll see it. You can see the brim of the hat. You see the dome part of the hat. You see the mouth and the eyes. You can say, well, that's a little bit of a blurry picture. Well, yeah, you're never really going to capture a spirit too clearly, but you can definitely see it's there. And that was the spirit captured, or I captured on film from the previous experience. Now, what's interesting about this is during that first time, one of the members of the other team, who's now a member of my team, made a grave error. He made a grave error in wanting to confront this black mass. Why you would want to do that, I don't know. I mean, to exercise is one thing, but to go up and piss it off is a whole different. He felt offended that it attacked one of the members of his team. So he went up into the attic, which is where we seen this thing go. And he pretty much, fuck this, fuck that. You don't touch one of the members of my team. I won't stand for that shit. None of this. And I think he caused a changing of his life by doing this. Why I believe this is the next time we were there where we caught a picture of the hat man, We had a conversation about my dad having a stroke by drinking 5-hour energy drinks. It was one of the leading things that led to him having a stroke. Now, it was a mini stroke, thankfully. We were talking because Tom was drinking 5-hour energy drinks, one of the members of my team. And I said to him, you need to stop drinking those fucking things. You're going to end up having a stroke like my dad. You need to get off them. He's like, oh, I love these things. I'll keep drinking them. Why? I never have told anybody. This is the first any human being has ever heard this. When I said that out loud to him, I felt something like I did that time in the stairwell. I said, you need to stop drinking them or you're going to end up having a stroke like he did. And I felt this weirdness inside of me like I did when I looked up at that black mass, like there was a still lingering piece of that thing inside of me. And I just kind of shrugged it off like that was weird. And I didn't say anything to anybody. It was just one of those moments where you're kind of like, what the fuck? It was nothing. It was just my mind. It was just my imagination, right? Even though it's in a house that we experience wild stuff. Shortly after that incident, he was hunting in his tree stand by himself, and he had a stroke. And he laid in the woods for hours, almost dead, before his son, who was a member of our team, found him. Since then, he's had several other episodes. He's had other health issues that have taken place. My belief, and this is only my belief, is that the confronting of that spirit, that dark parasitic energy, those years ago in 2020, May, led ultimately to his stroke in the woods in 2021. Now, I'm reading some of the comments here. For me, it's an astral parasite or disembodied spirit. And like I said, Dee Dee, I think it's a mixture of both. I think it's a disembodied spirit that has an attachment of an astral parasite on it. Jesus isn't always the answer. No, a lot of times that can anger a spirit. And I mean, we have to understand, and folks, I'll give a whole lecture on this at some point if you'd like. Jesus was never a real man. There's more evidence to prove that he wasn't ever a real person than there is to prove that he is. And I can prove that by going over a whole lecture sometime of very detailed information that'll prove that he just doesn't exist. It was a really good story for people to find, their inner higher consciousness, the Christos, the anointed one, the higher super consciousness within inside themselves. 99.9% of the time, demonic possession from typical demons do not possess. Yeah, I mean, a lot of those spirits that are actually ancient beings don't really care about this. And if they have a reason to do it, they will. But most of the time, it's not. Most of the time, if they give you a name of something ancient, it's really just one of these spirits doing that to cause more fear. Because once again, folks, if they're parasitic, it means that they need sustenance and energy to drink, to eat. Think of leeches. Think of vampires if you want to. They have to have sustenance of some sort. So sorrow, anger, frustration, all of these things cause more food. Now, what a lot of them can do when they're powerful enough is cause you to feel these. So not only will they drink those things from you, but for instance, they latched onto him, caused him to be aggravated, upset, slamming stuff, mad, and they're drinking that energy. So they're causing you to feel that way, then drinking the emotions from you and getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And that's why his anger and frustration made it strong enough to then be able to fully take over his faculties and run and control him. And that has been encountered several times at this location. We went back again a little while later. The groups have changed. Different members came and went. We had a woman on our team. She was sitting in the attic and she's like, something's not right, guys. My left, I can't remember if it's left or right. My one side of my body feels very strange right now. And I don't feel right. She was acting all weird. And she's like, I need to go downstairs. And we were in the attic, the room that being went to, the room where I had the vision was the attic. A lot of things center around the attic at this place. And we went downstairs, and what happens? She's sitting at the seance table by herself when the rest of the team isn't. For about an hour, she stared at that table, mumbling, just mumblings, not saying anything coherent. We're talking to her. She's not answering. I performed a little bit of a cleansing and banishing around her. She came back too and started being herself again. Now, really interesting. Very seldom does anything ever try this with me. I keep my astral shields up very strongly. I do daily meditations and rituals. I am someone who works in this field, so I stay pretty protected from things trying to do this to me. But another investigation we had there, with some of my members who are now on my team, who weren't at the time. They were just close friends. I was there Friday night until 3 o'clock in the morning by myself. I got there at 2 in the afternoon and spent 2 in the afternoon till roughly 2 or 3 in the morning alone. Had some very strange incidences there while I was there. I had losses of time where I would sit at the seance table, and I performed ritual there. I did full-blown spiritual convocation and spiritual evocation while I was there. Some really cool pictures I got out of it, some really intense interaction that I got out of it. But what was really strange is I would stand up, say to myself, I need something out of my book bag in the other room. And I would like look at my clock on my phone or on my wrist, my watch. I would walk into the room and start digging through my bag. I would come back and sit down at the table, get ready to continue ritual, and look down at my, excuse me, getting a little choked up talking about it. Look at my watch, and all of a sudden 35 minutes would have been gone. And I'm like, how did me walking 7 feet into the other room and coming back lose 35 minutes? I'd sit there for a while, do ritual, listen to the house, talk to the spirits. I need to get a drink of water. I just need to stretch my legs. I'd walk into the other room, come back, 25, 30, 40 minutes would be gone. This happened again and again. And I'm like, what is happening? Periods that I don't remember. And I still to this day don't remember. Now, the rest of my group showed up at 3 o'clock in the morning, which is pretty bizarre, but for some reason, that's when they showed up. And I was happy that they were there. I actually got tired around midnight and passed out in the house by myself, which is crazy for some folks, but you got to sleep. So they came and woke me up, and there's a lot of vortexes there, DD. Justin says, definitely need to make a TV series of your experiences and write a book. Yeah, man, I've been told that for a long time. I've had hundreds of experiences, and these aren't made up, folks. Almost every one of these experiences has been witnessed by multiple other people in a group setting that can attest to these things. I'm not one to bullshit people or make up stories. I could write a phenomenal book or make a series on this, but I just don't seem to want to do that. Yeah, and Mikey says that reminds me of the time lapse at the cemetery, which is another story I can tell on here on The Last Caw at some point. Maybe we'll bring Mikey on. Frater, I love listening to you. I'm always disappointed when I miss the podcast. Hey, no problem. Well, tonight we're doing something a little different. So what's interesting is they showed up, and, we researched for a little bit, and then we went to bed. We said we're going to hit it hard night two. Night two, we're ordered pizza. We're sitting. We're talking through a spirit box and different things. I said, I have to take a piss. Went into the kitchen, went into the bathroom. There's a bathroom off to the side of the kitchen. Do what I need to do. Walk out of the bathroom, and I'm walking past the oven, and I look over at the box of pizza, and I black out. Now, I don't mean black out like I hit the ground. I mean like I had a massive loss of time. And I remember just staring at the pizza. I can actually remember just standing there staring at it, but I lost all sense of myself. All of a sudden, I snapped back too, and I looked around the room, and I shook it off, and I'm like, what the hell was that? And I went back in the room, and everybody says, where the hell you been? And I says, what do you mean? They're like, you said you went to take a piss. I said, I did. They said, you've been gone for over 20 minutes. I was one room over. I stood for 20 minutes and stared at a box of pizza. Now, this sounds strange enough, but I sat down, and one of the members talked about how she lost her ex in a tragic car wreck and that he died. And I just started laughing, which I would never do. And everyone in the group looked at me like, what the fuck? And I started laughing. I stopped. I realized I caught myself. I said, I'm so sorry. And she's like, what the fuck? And then I felt it inside me. And I'm like, oh, you fucker. And I had to hurry up and put up as much mental energy as I could to force this thing out of me. And I felt it leave me and get back out of me. And I'm like, oh, it tried to take me. And it started to. It had grips in me. So I can say that this location specifically, is it a demon as an ancient god? No, I don't believe so. Is it a parasitic entity that is extremely powerful, that it has possessed, does possess, and will continue to possess others that go there over time? Yes. Some of them might not even realize the effects or that it's happening, depending upon how subtle or extreme that it might be. It poses itself as a little girl named Emily. Now, there is an Emily that was recorded to have been there at one point in time, and Emily might even still come through from time to time on spirit boxes as the real Emily. But this thing is smart and poses itself as Emily to get you to feel sorry for it, to interact with it and come into the room and talk to me. Yeah, go into the lion's den. That's why I named the episode Lions, Tigers, and Demons. Oh my, because come into the lion's den and talk to me. I'm little Emily. I need help. Emily is a crossbreed of an old man, malicious spirit mixed with a astral interdimensional parasite. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this recap of that. There has been other things that have happened there, a ton of evidence. Mikey Bowser, who's in the comments right now, was a member of my team at one point in time, not during some of these incidences, but he was a guest during some of those times, became a member of my team, and then they branched off into Bumpin' the Night Society, who's doing very well for themselves. They put Possessed and Oppressed in a town called Bellaire out a couple years ago as a documentary. It's over 2 hours long. It'll talk about these incidences. It'll talk about the experiences along with a lot of recorded evidence, disembodied EVP voices coming across recorders, ghost box responses, flashlights turning on, and a bunch of other relevant, pertinent information and evidence that had been captured during time spent at the Bellaire Demon House in Bellaire, Ohio. So I implore you all to go out there and check out Bumpin' the Night Society, Oppressed and Possessed in a town called Bellaire, and to keep your eyes out for the things that are around you, because we live in a world where we don't understand even a tenth of what is out there. We are programmed to believe a certain way, and we have tunnel vision in life. But if we open up our faculties, our clairaudience, our clairsentience and clairvoyance through means of meditation and ritual, through means of energy channeling, we can tap into the veil and rip behind that and see behind it and start to experience and witness many other happenings that are profound and great. Some nice, some not so nice. But just like in life, regular everyday life, you meet nice people and you meet pricks. That's going to happen in the spirit world as well. So that is my recap of the incidences that have happened there. You will hear in that documentary voices saying demons. Once again, I think they're trying to scare the team, trying to get more energy out of them, because Mikey at one point says, "What are you?" And it says, "Demon." I don't believe that it is. I had an incident that I don't know if I want to let too much out on, but I'll say this at least. I wasn't going to add this, but I'll do it real quick if you guys want it. Let me read a couple comments. If you guys want me to release a fucking bombshell, I'll do it. Let me just catch up with some of these comments here. As a medium, there have been times where those lapses in channeling jumpings have happened to me. This is why folks who try to dabble in it or wish they were a medium don't know the dangers of it. Even if we are shielded and warded, things like that will find any crack in those shields and wards and slip in. And Dee Dee, that's 100% accurate. No matter how strong you are, I look at myself as a pretty knowledgeable and pretty profound practitioner in my own right, and it fucking slapped me out of nowhere. Never seen it coming. I walked out of the pisser and boom, it just took over me. I had my guard down apparently, and it did its thing. Do you feel that Emily has a tie to the demonic prince that came through the ovulus? I'll get to that in 1 second, Mike. Thanks, brother. It was fun and an interesting night. It certainly was. Release the bombshell. My experiences always happen when I'm alone or with pets. Growing up, I've always had things happen. Nothing at all in recent years. Honestly, Justin, that is a lot of times when it happens. I've been a big advocate for people turning off the camera, turning off the audio recorder, not being 25 of you in a room tripping over each other's dicks. Go to a location that's known to be paranormally charged. Go to a cemetery, go into the middle of the woods, go to a historic landmark, or hell, go to your basement or just sit in your living room. Make sure you're not going to be disturbed. Light some candles and sit in quiet and talk to the air, talk to the spirits, and you might be surprised at how often they answer you. Now, the bombshell, folks, and then we will wrap this up. I was asked to do a broadcast that was eventually supposed to be released as a series on television. I can't say much more about it than that because of the disclosures that I signed. But what I will say is that I was able to do ritual. And after the ritual, doing a spirit box session, I had one of the most profound spirit box sessions of my life, where Emily came through. Emily help me, please, please help me. And you could hear her crying. It was very convincing. And I says, I know this isn't Emily. I dealt with you before and I exorcised you before. I know exactly who and what you are. Within seconds, through the spirit box, through the spirit box laughing, it was obviously the thing pretending to be Emily. Now, I said, what is it that you want? I shit you not. The very next response was a different type of voice, a very ogreish, elf-like imp. Blood. Give me blood. And this sounds like a Hollywood movie. This was witnessed by a whole film crew, about 12 people that were here on the set. They heard this thing say, blood. Give me blood. Now, you could feel a very heavy presence come into the room on top of that, obviously, that chaos. And I said, I can feel, and this did feel different. This wasn't Emily. Wink, wink. This wasn't this parasitic entity. This was something heavy. Now, I was able to do a ritual before this. This was a part of the filming. And I said, who just entered this room? I can feel you. Tell me your name. And a voice as clear as day right afterwards came through the spirit box and says, I am Azazel. And I was like, holy shit, because the ritual I just did partially mentioned Azazel. And it's not that out of normal, because when I do normal rituals, I'm expecting that, but I wasn't expecting that in just this random house that I'm doing it, a series in. And I said, say again, I just want to make sure I heard you. What is your name? And it came through and said, Azazel. And then I felt another energy and said, who's here? There's something. I could feel a confliction. Now, I don't believe that angels and demons are against each other, but I felt a tension in the room and said, who else is here? And a completely different man's voice came through. That's why I said this is one of the best audio spirit box sessions I've ever been in, because it was immediate answers, crystal clear, intelligent answers in multiple different men's voices, fitting the story. And another voice came through and said, Michael. So I had Michael, Michael, the angel, supposedly, and Azazel, the demonic prince, the Grigori watcher, who was chained in the earth after creating the Nephilim giants. Now, do I believe it was actually them? I have no idea. I have encountered spirits all the time in ritual. I have no reason to believe it isn't them, because I felt the energy that they brought, and it was not normal, and it was much different than the energy that happened during that possession. But I have no way of knowing for sure. Now, like I said, those two beings, I believe, are very separate than the one that said, blood, give me blood. But there was multiple things happening here. But we were standing right next to what I know to be a portal in this house, an open portal, one that Christian ministers and things can't shut because they've been there and tried, didn't work for them. There is an open, very large wormhole astral gate, several of them in this house, but there's a big one. In one location of the house. So that is the experience that we had. I can't say much more than that. Unfortunately, or fortunately, that filming by a true professional crew will never be released because of some other things that took place afterwards that I cannot speak about. They decided to shelve the entire project. I am not upset about it, though, because some of the things that unfolded afterwards were fucked. And would have not have been something I wanted to be released because of how they chose to want to portray me. It was that I was supposed to come there as an expert in the occult, which I am. And they wanted to portray me in a good light, show this other side of the world that most don't know or see. But secretly, I found out behind the scenes that they were going to take that footage, paint it over, and make me out to be this crazy satanic occultist who summons demons and gives them blood and all kinds of wild shit that, once it got shelved, I was cool with it and said, you know what? That's all right. I'm glad it got shelved. If it would have got released, whatever. But I'm not cool with that. Because just because someone has a satanic belief or they're a diabolist, does not make them a bad man. You guys tell me, do I look like a bad man? Do I sound like one? I've taught thousands. I take time to help anybody that I can. but I have beliefs in daemons and daimons and demons. That's who I worship and who I work with. And I explained that to him beforehand. I will not come onto the show if you're going to paint me out to be some asshole like all these other shows have done. No, that is not our plan. We want to do you righteous, only to fucking lie to my face and plan to do it anyway. So some things took place, I think, from my spirit guides to make sure that that shit got shut down. And so let's just say some of the people involved had a really negative experience shortly afterwards. Let's read a couple of these comments and then we'll go ahead and end this. I think we got a solid episode here of Last Caw by Frater Crow. I thank all of you for tuning in. We have some things are not meant to be shared, unlike folks who feel they should be. Yeah, I mean, share teachings and things, and I'll do like these episodes where I share experiences that I've had. That's why I don't let a lot of people see my practice. I perform a lot of ritual, but I don't film me doing ritual. It's not to say that I wouldn't for certain reasons, but I don't because it's something very private and personal to me. A lot of the inner teachings, I run the Code 3 of Samil Arcana Cult Order. It is a cult. We are a closed and private cult. We do a lot of ritual. I don't ever release anything online about that. I don't show my members' faces. I don't do any of that because I believe that there is a reason to be secretive. There is a reason to be quiet in certain matters because there's strength in silence. Let's see. Not me giving that entity side eye saying Azazel, seeing as though he's in my cosmology. You just never know, man. It's hard to say. Like I said, what I did wasn't a ritual to him per se. I did an opening of the 4. It's almost like a reverse, the watchtowers in Wicca. This was an inverted infernal opening of the 4 dimensions, the 4 directions that I made myself, but there's other people who use similar procedures. It's just one that I happen to use. It wasn't even really like a full-blown ritual. It was more of a preliminary opening to communication, and sure enough, it surely opened communication. It worked out very, very well. Hey, Nocturne, thank you for tuning in. Justin chills. Yeah, man, it was a wild time. Wild several times at this place. Really fucked up place. If anything is crying or repeatedly saying, help me, shut it down. Well, the thing is, Justin, or excuse me, Dee, you'll hear that a lot. I go all over the country and do investigations, and I constantly hear spirits saying, please help, please, or I'm in pain. We've heard that numerous times. I have theories on that, but I'm not going to get into it tonight because we've already ran longer than I planned on it. Let's catch up with any other comments and we'll get out of here. Thanks for sharing your experiences. Absolutely, Sarah. Have a great night, you too, Sarah. You are one of a kind, sweet and nurturing. Well, thank you, Tara. I appreciate it. I tend to believe I am. I've always been nice to everybody. I've always been kind and helped anyone I can. If you do me wrong to a certain degree, I will strike you with lightning and feel no sorrow whatsoever. But you have to earn that right to be struck down. So as long as you stay in the clear, you're in the clear. And that's what I try to tell people is, I mean, there's no reason to fear someone unless you do something that you should fear them. At least when it comes to me. I see Natasha said, oops. I'm not really sure what that's about. I think she might be talking about the ritual stuff that I just talked about. Thank you for helping me and for your email. Would you tell me about your drink? It's not a drink. It is a specific plant medicine. You don't want it, man. You're not there. You have to work with plant medicine for a long time before you fuck with this stuff. It will rip you up. Sean said, I got to check out the full thing. Absolutely, brother. Please do. And yeah, great episode you guys had tonight, too. I always try to tune in if I can. It just depends on timing and schedule, but really enjoyed the broadcast tonight. Yeah, Nocturne, like I said, it's not a drink. It is an Amazonian snuff that you blow up your nose, and it will wreck your inside of your head. It burns. It's uncomfortable. It'll most likely make you ill. You will puke. You will shit your brains out, and you'll be sick for a while. And then, you start to feel great afterwards. But it's whether or not you want to go through that. And like I said, if you haven't worked with plant medicine before, I wouldn't suggest it. I have been someone who's taken belladonna multiple times, fly agaric toadstools or Amanita muscaria, datura, hembane, mugwort, mandrake root, all kinds of other plants as well. So I'm someone who's very versed in the poison path and have been taking these things for years. Not to say that you have to be to do this other type of stuff, but I wouldn't just, if you're not dealing with that, jump into that because it'll wreck you. Amazing episode. Thank you, Justin. Like I said, this was an impromptu thing. I've been thinking about doing the last call for a while, which is just Frater Crow's experiences. So some people might enjoy that, some not, but I could certainly talk, and I don't mind sharing what I've experienced. I've always been 100% truthful and raw with you guys. I don't hold back anything. From shit that would be embarrassing to me, I tell you. Shit that most people wouldn't want known because, like, oh, he did that. Well, that was criminal. Well, I did it. It's done. I'll tell it as long as it's not going to, indict me and get me arrested. So I never hold back anything. You can ask anybody that I know. I bring you the realness, and I will always continue to do that. Even with my radio shows ending, I'm going to bring you lectures. I'm going to bring you, teachings. I'm going to bring you these episodes recounting on experiences, and I'm going to bring you sermons at some point if I can. I am an ordained reverend. I am someone who has degrees in multiple areas, and I would love to use those degrees and knowledge to bring you stuff you never heard before, to a very proficient level. Nocturne, no. I got 2 more episodes of Celestial Oddities for the radio show, and then I'll just be doing stuff like this from time to time. No, not salvia. Salvia isn't that's not even, that isn't cleansing to the body. That's just if you want to blast yourself to the moon for 35 seconds and come back, you can. But salvia really isn't beneficial in any type of way. It's called hape, or rape, R-A-P-E, but the E has the symbol by it. So it looks like rape, but it's not rape. It's rape or hape. It's an Amazonian ceremonial snuff that you blow up your nose. And it is very cleansing, but it is brutal. So if you want to get it, feel free to look it up, find it from somewhere. There's different places you can get it. There's different things like sananga that you can put in your eyes. There is cacao. There is shilajit. There's all these different substances you can do to start really cleansing and fucking strengthening that mind, body, spirit, soul, and emotions that we should all be doing. Because as you do that, it takes you to the next level. Yeah, hape or rape. Yeah, look it up, man, if you want to try it. It's not for me. I'll do it from time to time as an astral cleanser. It will destroy anything attached to you parasitically. It will purge you. Mind, body, and soul. It'll purge. And when I say purge, I mean, give you an example of my last experience. For that night and the next 2 days, I shit my brains out nonstop for like 2 days. I'd puked that night violently several times, and I just felt like death for 2 days. And then I felt phenomenal. But, and that's not everybody does that. It depends on what's attached to you and where you're at energetically. I'd been doing a lot of rituals prior to that, and even with protection, even with circles, even with the triangle manifestation and banishings, when you're working with heavy shit, you take on heavy shit. That's what people don't understand. I've talked about Satanists multiple times, not understanding this factor, because I don't use circles. I don't use triangles. I don't use bindings. I don't use angels' names and banishings. I just call them in, we work together, and then we're good. Well, that's cool, but even if they weren't to attach something to you or give you negative energy, which they do just by being in their presence a lot of times, it's the things that come with them. It's not the lion that you're looking at. It's the 25 hyenas standing behind him. That when the lion walks away, you didn't banish. You turn your back to walk away because the lion's gone now, and the pack of hyenas fucking tear you apart astrally, and you don't realize. So even someone like myself who constantly is cleansing still had shit on me. When I took the rape, it fucking whoosh, cleansed it. So it's a lesson learned. All the people that tell me they're friends with demons and shit, I don't get me wrong, I'm a diabolist. I work specifically with darker energies, absolutely. But when people are like, I don't believe in any safeguards at all because we're friends, well, let me know how that works for you in 10 years, because I've been practicing for fucking 20. And let me know how that works. Circles are very important. Purge trauma out of a person. I don't know if it would purge trauma out of you per se. It would probably help. It'd make you feel better after making you feel worse. But I tell people all the time, you have to walk through fire to find paradise. It's like a blade. I always give the analogy of a blade. If you want to become a weapon in occultism, you want to become a weapon in ritual, be efficient, slice down to the matter of things. Well, how is a blade made? Through beating, through tempered fire. You go through the flames, you take a beating, you get dunked in water, you get stuck back into flames, you get fucking hammered a bunch more, you get stuck in the water, you get stuck back into flames. You got to go through hell to get yourself to a fine, sharpened, tempered blade for battle. And that'll be one of the ways of doing it. It'll help purge some of that shit out of there. So nothing comes easy. People a lot of times believe that this is something like, how do I learn this overnight? No, it's going to take you the rest of your life. There's no race. This isn't a marathon. If you want to do this, it shouldn't be any different than waking up and eating cereal. People always want to put occultism and ritual, especially the left-hand path, on a pedestal. They want to say like, oh, it's such this magical and fancy thing. Well, it is. But do Christians do that when they go to church? No, they wake up on Sundays, they go to church, they worship, they do their mass, they sing their psalms, they take the Eucharist, they come home. They live a life that follows those guidelines and restrictions. Sunday, they go to church again. It's just embedded into their life. But left-hand path practitioners always act like it's this fucking crazy side thing. And at first, when you're a dabbler or a neophyte, it is. But it should become a part of your life. Everyday meditation, everyday ritual, everyday cleansing, affirmations, mantras, mudras, yantra work. All of these things, cleansing, ritual cleansing baths, using different roots ground up in your tub to take cleansing purification baths. You should do regular penance. You should, and I know this sounds Christian-y and people don't understand the reason for it. Regular confession as well, not to anybody, to yourself out loud. Confess and accept the things you've done. I did my friend wrong and fucked him. I did such a dirty thing to this man, and accept it. Don't push it back in your mind that I didn't do anything wrong. No, you did something wrong. Absorb it, because you taking that baggage into ritual with you is going to be what gets you killed. Cleanse yourself. There's a reason that the Christians did a lot of the things they did. People badmouth them. They don't understand. If you're going to understand the practices around it, so you know why everybody does what they do, why every piece moves the way that it moves. That's why I always work with Christian shit. People always say like, oh, you're a Satanist and you fucking know so much about Christianity. Yes, absolutely. I have studied to ad nauseum Christianity and Catholicism and Gnosticism. Because how can you ever understand your place if you don't understand the opposing places? Doesn't make sense. Those astral hyenas are fucking beasts, absolutely. I agree with you. This is why trauma survivors usually have a thick skin. But the thing is, you act like a thick skin's good. Thick skin just means you buried it down beneath you and then added a bunch of layers of armor on top of it, burying it further. And burying is the last thing you want to do. You want to dig that shit up. You want to face it. You want to crucify it. You want to kill it. And then you want to bury it somewhere else other than within inside your psyche. So a thick skin is fucking horrible. That's the worst thing you could admit and say, I have a thick skin because X, Y, Z. Yes, you buried it because of X, Y, Z, and you need to fucking cut that shit open, pull it out, face it, kill it, get rid of it. It doesn't serve you anymore. You are not what has happened to you. You are not the memories of what has happened to you. Let it go. It's hard. I know. Things have happened to me too. Let it go. We got completely off subject here, folks, but I can always do these sessions as well and just jump in and do talk sessions. Great metaphor, bro. Absolutely. Circles important. Yep. Anyone who magically trained properly knows to not turn a blind eye to your back, even if you're working a positive spell or circle. Yep. I agree. Yeah, absolutely. It's important to read everything. I studied everything from the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, to the Torah, the Talmud, the Tanakh, the Sefer Yetzirah, the Sefer HaBahir, the Sefer Razaya Malek, to the Emerald Tablets, to the Satanic Bible, to all the other, satanic type works, to the Vulgate and everything in between. I mean, if you're gonna be an occultist and really be an occultist, you got to fucking put in the work. At least that's my belief. Folks, I appreciate everything you guys have done tonight with tuning in, leaving comments, share it around, click the like button. Sorry we got a little off track, but we know we always do with me. I go into tangents and all kinds of other stuff. But hopefully you enjoyed the recap of the Bellaire Demon House in 2020. And hopefully you enjoyed Cause, or the Last Caw, Lions, Tigers, and Demons. Oh my. We'll catch you guys next time on Celestial Oddities.